Hello, and welcome to another edition of All or Nada According to Jack with your host, Jack Toledano, and my brother from the same mother, Mr. Andrew Toledano.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, very, how are you
Good.
doing?
I'm doing good. It's
Andrew looks like he's coming at us from an office setting. Me, I'm in my typical place, which I'm hiding because the room looks like shit, but and I'm wearing my Sea of Tranquility shirt for anybody that's interested.
teach me how to do the background next time so you don't see all this garbage behind me.
You got it. You got it. So, our discussion for today, and happy Passover and happy Easter in advance to everybody, uh, out there. Uh, so basically, we have a treat for everybody. We are going to do the ranking of the albums of the great Led Zeppelin. Uh, just to show you one of the books that I bought, which I haven't even started to read yet, but I have another book that I'll show you. But yeah, so Andrew and I have been listening to Led Zeppelin for a very long time, since back in the mid to late 70s, and I'd like to see what Andrew has as compared to what I have. And also, I just want to preface it by saying, please don't be shocked by anything, people. When I did Black Sabbath, I know that there were a few people that they're like, "What? You put the album with Ian Gillan last? How could you do that?" You know what? It's just my opinion. I didn't think he was a good fit for Black Sabbath, so there you have it.
That's
That
right.
was- yeah,
This is our opinion, right? I mean,
that's right. So I know some people are going to be shocked by my number eight, but it is what it is. So, all right. So let's get us started, Andrew. What do you have?
all right. So again, do you want me to list my number 8, 9, 8, 7?
Nine, eight, and seven, and you do them individually. You list number nine, talk about it. Then
Okay,
number eight, talk about it. Then number seven.
got it. All
Okay.
right. Well, this probably is not going to surprise anybody at all. Um, it's obviously going to be Coda, which was considered a studio album, even though technically it's a compilation.
Right.
Um, and but I learned a lot. Just kind of I always knew what my favorite albums were, but I wanted to know. I also wanted to know just some of the behind the scene details of some of the albums. So I researched some of them and did not know that Coda came from an influence. Well, not an influence, but came from outtakes from the early '70s as well as the late '70s. So it's just kind of just a hodgepodge mixture of um, you know,
Right.
the all their material throughout their catalog.
Right.
The ones and again, there's no bad Led Zeppelin album. I even love Coda. I think it's a great album, but it's my least favorite. Basically,
Right.
I'm not saying it's their worst album. I'm saying it's my least out of all their studio albums. Least favorite. I like Darlene a lot. That came from the In Through the Outdoor outtakes. Um, they played Ozone Baby a lot on the radio, and We're Gonna Groove, and I love Poor Tom
Poor
because
Tom. Yeah.
it's that came from the Led Zeppelin 3 era, I believe. Heavily, drum influence, John Bonham there, and what was interesting about researching Coda was um, they some of the later editions they added the Traveling Riverside Blues, which is a great song, and they also added Hey Hey What Can I Do. So if you bought like the 2007 version of Coda, those songs were included. So
Oh,
when you
nice.
throw those songs in there, it actually makes it a great album.
Mm,
But again, least favorite out of the 9 studio albums.
I get it.
So
Totally
so
understood.
that's that one. And then moving on to number 8 for me, we're kind of the first few are like this. We're going in reverse order. It's going to be In Through the Outdoors is my eighth um in the least favorite categories. Again, a great album. I actually listen to it all the time. I probably listened to it 2 3 months ago.
Right.
um I love Cara Umbrella. That's one of probably my favorite songs on the album. It's a 10-minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great heavy synthesizers. And then again, the research when I did on this one, because I wanted to know some facts about the albums, was that this was the period that John Bonham was heavily into alcohol, and Jimmy Page had some drug problems. So it was like kind of like Plant and John Paul Jones were teaming up during the day, and then they were like whatever, like when they were sober at
They
night, they
took
would
the lead
they
on that album.
they
Yep.
would do their thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a kid this album coming out, and a lot of the Led Zeppelin faithful were like, "Oh my God, how could they do this?" Like, all the heavy. It was basically a a detraction from all what they did throughout their career.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like I kind of what's similar strikes me as similar. It's kind of like when Van Halen came out with 1984.
Right.
And then the same thing with Jump with the synthesizer, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, how could Van Halen do this?" And it was
Yeah.
kind of the same thing with In Through the Outdoor, but again, a great album. Me being a drum player, I like some of these songs are hard to play on drums. Like "Fool in the Rain" is kind of like
Really.
has this weird beat to it.
Uh-huh.
But really, the only throwaway songs on this album is "Hot Dog" and "I'm Gonna Crawl." The other songs are
Right.
rock solid.
Yep.
Um, and then for me, number 7, also in reverse order to the order that these were released in, is going to be "Presence." Uh,
Interesting.
um, a great album again. Um, it was in my opinion, Led Zeppelin's return to pure rock.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Some of their mid career albums were kind of like eclectic and have acoustic ballads and all kinds of things going on, but this was like their return to just pure rock and roll.
Yeah.
You don't really find synthesizers, acoustic guitars on this one. um but again, a great album from top to bottom. I play drums to this album all the time. It's just a
Oh, yeah.
great album.
It's very cool.
But
Any
you know,
particular song that you like the best and you like to play drums to the best?
um, not really. I like "Nobody's Fault But Mine." I like, they kind of, for me, this album, maybe "Achilles' Last Stand" is that one that's like that really long song. But
Yes.
other than that, they kind of like flow into each other, and they're kind of. I don't want to say that they sound the same. I
Mhm.
don't want to go there, but they they kind of flow into each other. Um, I like "Nobody's Fault But Mine." I like "Royal Orleans."
Mhm.
You know, I like "Candy Store Rock." I mean, I think they're all fantastic songs.
All right.
But again, there's so many great albums. It's like you know, I'm not saying it's like their third worst. I'm saying it's their just
Yeah,
you know
totally
their
understood.
seventh best album, basically.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's my 9, 8, and 7.
Okay. Well, there may be a little shock value with mine, as but you'll see. So I'm going to go to the PowerPoint as I have done for the others that I've done. So there you have it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually worked on this last week. Yeah. So my number 9, which is not much of a surprise to you, my number 9 also is Coda. Uh, it's a
Okay. Well, when you flashed your first picture, I thought you were saying Led Zeppelin 1 was your least
no,
favorite
no,
album.
no, 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 no.
That's why I said, "Oh wow."
Oh, so okay, I didn't mean to cause any confusion. Yeah, no, no, that is a favorite of mine. So we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, so number 9 for me is Coda. Uh, again, not much more that needs to be said other than what you said. The way I rank these, what I'll do is I'll listen to every album and I'll give them I'll give each song a value, a numerical value from say 2 stars up to 4 stars, and I do quarter stars just to to kind of break it up.
Hmm.
And it especially helped me when I had to rank Black Sabbath because there were so many albums, and it's the the fastest way I could get it out to the public is to do that. So I figured I'd be consistent. So now no 4 star songs in Coda, but I like We're Gonna Groove, probably my favorite song. Most of the others under 3 stars. So that's other than Poor Tom and Ozone Baby. But again, and also another factor is if I want to listen to take a Led Zeppelin album off the shelf, which one would I listen to the least? And it would probably be
Hmm.
this
Yep.
one. Okay, so let's go down to number 8, Houses of the Holy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got to tell you, there are some songs that I absolutely love on this album, some songs that I absolutely cannot stand, like for example, the crunge. I can't stand the crunge. And then Dire Maker, I'm not such a fan of that song either. And I look at these albums as a whole, and I try to take a holistic approach to every album. What is like the perfect? I'm looking for the perfect album, and
Hmm.
those 2 songs kind of drag this album down for me. Uh, I love Over the Hills and Far Away. I love The Ocean. What else? Dancing Days is a good song. Uh, the Rain song, it took me a lot of years to get used to that song. One time, Sue and I went to see this Billy Joel cover band, in the local park by us, and Randy Jackson of uh, of Zebra opened for this band, and he, and he did it all on a 12-string acoustic guitar by himself, and he played the Rain song in its entirety. And Andrew, I got to tell you, he played it note for note,
Hmm.
perfect. And
Very cool.
so granted, it's not my favorite song, but these songs, I mean, I basically know them in my sleep. So I would have known if he made a mistake on a note or whatever. But so that's my spiel on Houses of the Holy.
Was Zebra was a Led Zeppelin cover band before they were Zebra, if I'm not mistaken.
That is, yes, that is possible. Yeah, but I felt really bad for him. Of course, I heard some people murmuring, "Oh, get the hell off the stage already!" I turned around. I'm like, I felt like saying, shut the hell up and just go have a smoke break or whatever." So, but yeah, no, he perfect cover of that song. Okay, so I digress. So my number 7, Presence, similar to yours, and that's not because I dislike this album. I think it is a very good album. Like you said, it's more of a heavy album. There's a lot less John Paul Jones on keyboards. He's there to play primarily bass, and from what I understand, Robert and Jimmy pretty much wrote most of the album before the other 2 even arrived to add their input to it. But my favorite, of course, Killy's Last Stand and Nobody's Fault But Mine. 2 great songs, and I do like the heaviness of it. So that's my number 7.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if you've ever heard of this band. It's called Get the Lead Out.
oops, yes, I have heard of now that I freaking
I've
blew my
um
number 6.
I've seen them in Charlotte 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I think it's been 3 times actually. And
So
so they're the thing with them is they they play every song note for note.
right,
They have like 6 or 7 musicians to avoid, because they can't do the overdubbing.
right, yeah.
So the really cool thing about them is every time they come, they kind of keep record of what they played the last time they were there,
Oh,
and
nice.
they try to play different songs every time they come. And the
Oh,
last time they were here, they played Achilles' Last Stand, and
oh, cool.
it was awesome.
So you met my large brother Lee. at the Billy Joel concert, but he and I went and saw that band at the Paramount in Huntington, and yeah, I agree, they were awesome.
Yep.
Uh, Unfortunately, we're never going to get to see Led Zeppelin in our lifetime, so that's the second best. That's the next best thing.
Yep. Yep. I did get to see Plant and Page on that Plant and Page tour in the mid '90s.
Oh, cool.
There
Wow.
for
Okay, so you're a little closer than I was.
yeah, yeah. So that
Very
was really
nice. Okay, so now that I gave my no I gave my number six away, but we'll get back to that. What is uh
so. Yeah.
your
So
number six?
my number six. Speaking about Houses of the Holy, my number six is Houses of the Holy,
Oh, okay.
and I agree a lot what you said. Although I don't dislike any of the songs, I think the crunch like has a lot of good funk
Hmm.
and like complex drum beats, which makes it a really cool song to me.
Okay.
But I agree, like some of these songs, are not their best songs, but I still like them.
Right.
Dire Maker, Dancing Days, like not my most favorite songs, but what I will say, even though I rank this album six, it has some of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. I love the song "Remains the Same." It's one of my favorite songs
Right.
by the band, and I happen to absolutely love the Rain song. I
Yeah.
think it's very dramatic and
Right.
just emotional song.
Too bad you weren't
And
there to see Randy play it that night.
and I also love "No Quarter" is one of my favorite
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin songs
Right.
of all time. It's just, but and what's funny is I don't. We didn't discuss how we ranked the albums, so you didn't tell me what you do, I didn't tell you what I do, but I found myself having to do the same thing, score some of the songs because like the middle pack albums was tough for me. Like I knew what my least favorite ones were, and I knew what my favorite ones were, and the ones in the middle was almost like that game you see on the street where they do the shells and they move them around on the table and
Oh, three
where
chord Monty. Right.
yeah, so it was like the middle three was kind of like that for me, and I had to wait so I did the same thing. Like, so even though the song remains the same, Rain Song, No Quarter, those songs score high. Some of the other songs didn't score so high, so that's how that landed um, there. So moving on to number five, and if I would have told you that this is number five, when I first started looking at this, looking at all these albums, I would have been shocked. I would have never told you because I would have thought it was one of my favorite albums. But there's so many other good ones.
Right.
So number five for me is Led Zeppelin one.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
um, and it's like I said before, I never thought that this would land here. But when I did the scores and the weights, you know, that's where it landed.
Okay. Is what it is.
It's their first album. It's maybe one of not the heaviest album, but it's one of the heaviest album, and I just love the um the heaviness of it. And I also love the blues. I mean, I think some of their best blues songs are on this album,
Uh-huh.
especially like "I Can't Quit You, Baby," and I love obviously I love "Good Times, Bad Times."
Right.
Still to this day, I can't do what John Bonham does on that bass drum, which he still amazes me every time I hear it.
Oh yeah. He is
Um,
something else.
and then "Baby, I'm Gonna Leave You" is a absolutely great song.
Yeah.
Um, but again, when I scored the songs, that's where it landed.
All right.
Um, so number four for me is Led Zeppelin 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Um, and this I thought when I first started this, I thought that would have been same thing with one. I thought it would have been way higher up the flagpole.
Uh-huh.
Um, but this was the first Led Zeppelin album I ever heard in my lifetime. Um, uh, you know,
I have an
uh,
interesting story about it when I get to Zeppelin.
um,
Yeah.
a whole lot of love that like that opening guitar
Right.
riff is classic. Um, and then "What Is and What Should Never Be." I love I love especially the end, how they, the first time I heard that when I was a kid, and you heard like one riff coming out of one speaker and the
Hmm.
other riff coming out of the other speaker. And just like
Yep.
some of the things Led Zeppelin did in the studio with, their overdubbing and their use of engineering and what they did behind the glass, it's just amazing.
Well, that was mainly Jimmy Page and Eddie Kramer. I don't know if you ever heard of Eddie Kramer, but
One of
he
their engineers, sound engineers.
he was the engineer, and Jimmy produced it. But Eddie Kramer turned around and did some producing for Kiss in their particularly Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun and some of those. But I think he did a great job.
Yeah. So this, to me, this is one of Led Zeppelin's heaviest albums, rock.
Right,
I love Heartbreaker. The guitar and Heartbreaker is like one of the best
right,
guitar works that
mhm,
Jimmy does.
right.
Um, obviously I love Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Um,
You
and
ever tried to play that?
I still can't play that. But
Oh,
speaking about Get the Lead Out, they pride themselves on playing everything just like it is on the studio record.
right,
And their drummer did Moby Dick, and he did it like note for note. And so he started playing the drums with his hands like John Bonham did with
right,
Moby
right.
Dick. And
Uh,
it was really incredible to see that live.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember most of the songs they played. I just remember they were really spot on.
Yeah.
And it was a very enjoyable show. So okay, so that was your four. So let's go back to my PowerPoint, and let's go back to and share. Okay, so I think everybody saw that my number six. Uh yeah, this thing, it's a pain in the ass sometimes. Okay, so my number six is In Through the Outdoor. And by the way, folks, Sue and I were actually at this place a few years back. This is Monument Valley Tribal Park in that straddles Arizona and Utah. What an amazing freaking place! And Led Zeppelin chose to use that picture for the cover of their their DVD package of a whole bunch of different concert footage, which I have, and I love it. So anyway, back to In Through the Outdoor. Not too much more to talk about other than what Andrew has already said, but I'll tell you what my favorites are on this album. Carousel Alhambra, as you mentioned, In the Evening, Southbound Soiree. I love that. In fact, I love all the side one, Fool in the Rain and Hot Dog. I love that riff that Jimmy does in the beginning of Hot Dog. Makes it for me. Uh, and that's it for number six. So number five, Led Zeppelin 3.
Ooh.
Uh,
Wow.
let me tell you, over the years, this album has really grown on me. It is a great album, and unfortunately, it had to be on at number five because it's displaced by, my top four. Uh, Songs that I love, of course, I love the kickoff track, Immigrant Song. Uh, I've really grown to love Since I've Been Loving You, Gallows Pole, Celebration Day. It's just an amazing album. Oh, Bron Moir Stomp is a great song. The only song that I'm not too crazy about is the last one, Hats Off to Harper. But other than that, a very solid sound album. When I was younger, I wanted to hear the heavy stuff, so I didn't get the more folksy side that they were trying to get to, but I understand it now. Great album. Fortunately, it made it to number five. Okay, so my number four, Physical Graffiti. Uh, Another album that I wish I could have ranked it higher. It's got some really, really strong spots on this album. Trampled Underfoot, Kashmir. I love 10 Years Gone. I did a top songs of Led Zeppelin, and I think that was my number one, actually, 10 Years Gone.
Hmm.
Bron Moir, one of the guys who lived in my suite at school, I'd hear him playing that all the time. Uh, what else? Houses of the Holy. I don't know how that made it onto this album as opposed to being on the title track of the previous album. Uh,
I, you know, actually, what they said
yeah.
was they didn't have they had to cut one song, and
Hmm.
even though that was the title track, they felt that it sounded too much like the other songs on the album, and that's the reason why they left it off.
Interesting. Very interesting. But uh, I also like Boogie with Stu. Years later, I come to find out that they basically plagiarized it from Richie Valens. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it wasn't until I saw what was the movie that Lou Diamond Phillips
La
did,
Bamba.
La Bamba. Yeah, all of a
Yeah.
sudden he starts playing the song "Ooh My Head." I'm like, wait a second, that's on fucking Physical Graffiti.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, in this case, the chicken was Richie Valens, but so and they've been sued over the years by
Well,
quite.
I read that they settled out of court, but
Oh yeah,
they ended up giving some money to Richie Valens' mother for that.
oh yeah, they would have had to, and they gave a writer's credit. Yeah, but I think they corrected the writer's credit back to Richie Valens, but I think in the album I had, it said Mrs. Valens, and it's partial writer's credit, but. Anyway, uh, great album. You get two for the price of one. Double record. Who knew that Led Zeppelin would do a double album back in the day? And some of this half of the album were songs that they did during sessions at that time. Others were leftovers from Houses of the Holy, as you mentioned, and three and four basically. So. All right. So I will stop sharing and we'll go back to you for your top three. Let's have them.
Okay, number three. And like I said, with the three card money, I slid these around a little bit. I would have thought that this one would have been further up the line, just because it's got so much airplay over the years, and I'm like, I've heard these songs so much on the radio that I'm tired of these songs. So I thought it would have fell. I thought it would have been, when I started my list, it was probably higher up, but when I really evaluated and scored the songs, I say to myself, I can't base a ranking of an album just because it's so popular and it's played the most on the radio. I can't. So without saying any more, it's Led Zeppelin 4 is number 3 for me.
Okay.
And um, what can I say? It's probably
Well, you know what it is? Sometimes, as you're going to see with at least one of my albums, the deeper tracks hold more meaning for you.
yeah, yeah. I so when I rank the songs, I say, well, how am I ranking it? Am I ranking it because it got too much airplay? No, I have to rank it because it's a great song. So
Yeah.
that's just the only reason why this album moved so much higher up for me, because when I did an honest
Yeah.
assessment
Hmm.
of the ranking of the songs, as prior I had it low down the totem pole. When I really did an honest ranking of the songs and I ranked them, I was like, well, these are great songs. It moved further up for me.
Okay.
Um,
Hey, here's a question for you. Being a drummer, can you play four sticks?
no, no.
Okay.
You know what? I've never even tried it.
Because
I
he's
don't even know. I
literally
don't even know
playing
how
with
you
four
hold two.
sticks.
I don't even know how you hold two sticks in each hand. I mean,
I
that
think
that
he crisscrosses them in like so basically what he does is I think he kind of crisscrosses them in each hand and yeah, something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
I've never seen him do it, but I would have to imagine that's what he does.
yeah. I mean, I need to spend more time doing paradiddles and
Right.
regular exercises rather than trying to learn how
Yeah.
to play with two sticks in each hand. But again, Black Dog, rock and roll. One of my favorite songs is "The Battle of Evermore."
Oh, nice.
Um, "Stairway to Heaven" is probably even though it's cliche, it probably is the greatest song of all time. Um, and I love Misty Mountain Hop. It's a great
Oh, me
song.
too. Yes. Great song.
And I love When the Levee Breaks, especially the
Yeah,
opening beat.
that's a great song too. Yeah.
Um, so obviously, you know, critical acclaim. Probably most people, the casual fan, they're going to rank that album number one.
Right.
Um, but the reason why it falls at number three for me is number one, I have other albums I like better, and number two, I've just if you're a really true Led Zeppelin fan, you've heard these songs over and over, like almost beaten to death.
Yeah.
That like I probably listen to this album the least out of all the Zeppelin albums that I listen
Interesting.
to.
Wow.
It's just because I just heard it so much growing up, you know.
I gotcha.
But anyway, moving on to number two for me is Led Zeppelin 3,
Okay.
which, if you would have asked me when I first became a fan 30 some odd years ago, Led Zeppelin 3 would have been way down for me.
Right.
And it's to me, it's shot up to the top because I just think it's melodically, it's got some of the most,
Yeah.
beautiful songs that they've produced.
Yeah.
Um, um, and and like the background of it was pretty interesting. I heard that they their tour schedule was so gruesome in the first few years. They toured like madmen,
Hmm.
and they just they needed a break, so they started writing. They went to on holiday and
Yeah.
into the countryside,
They rented
and they
that
just
cottage.
and supposedly there was no running water, no electricity, and they
Mhm.
started playing acoustic instruments, and that was the inspiration for this album, and kind of really proved that Led Zeppelin was more than just a heavy rock,
Oh, without a
that they
doubt.
that
Yeah.
they that they were more than just a pretty face.
Right.
um the Immigrant Song is great. I love Friends. Since I've Been Loving You is probably in my top five
Yep.
most
Great
favorite Led
song.
Zeppelin
Yep.
songs. And I love there's not one song that I don't love on this album. Even Hats Off to Roy Harper, I think is a brilliant song.
Right.
Um, and their use of effects on that album, the way they I mean on that song, I'm sorry, talking about Hats Off to Roy Harper.
Hmm.
Um, Even like Plant's vocals, like that effect that they did, they some kind of delay. I don't even know what you call it, but
Right.
uh, Braun Wire Stomp, great
Oh,
song.
yeah.
Um, it's
Here's a
just this
funny.
just
Here's
this
a fun.
this album for me just really just to me just solidified that you know Jimmy Page is one
I
of the
have a very
is one
funny.
of the best guitarists of our generation.
I have a very funny quick story about Bronway Stomp. So Jason plays guitar. So
Yeah.
one day he's sitting on his bed and he's trying to come up with he's got his acoustic in his hand and he's trying to come up with some uh, what are they call chord progressions. So he's all of a sudden, and I'm out in the living room, and I all of a sudden I hear what sounds like the chord progression to Bronway or Stomp, and I'm listening and I'm listening. And I'm like, holy shit, he's playing that freaking chord by chord. So I had to go in, run into his room. I'm like, just so you're aware, Jason, don't don't make this one of your songs for your band because uh, you'll be plagiarizing Led Zeppelin. So I had him look it up on YouTube, and he's like, oh wow, you're right. So
Maybe he heard it a couple days ago and
no, he had never heard it. Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it was
Huh.
the coolest thing. Yeah. All right, sorry
Um,
to interrupt.
no, you're fine. You're fine. But anyway, yeah, it's great. Um, like I said years ago, probably would have been way down there, but over the years has really moved up for me. Just love it.
That's
Um,
it has for me as well.
Number one, and this has not changed because this has always been my favorite Led Zeppelin album. That's the one thing that has not changed. The others might have mixed around, but Physical Graffiti has always been my favorite Led
Nice.
Zeppelin album.
I figured, yeah.
And just the from the opening guitar riff from the very first song, Custard Pie. It's just
Yeah,
you're in for a treat, man.
yeah.
It's just exciting songs. I love Custard Pie from the
What are
opening
some of the
guitar riff, the
uh,
drum beat, moving right into the Rover, another
uh-huh.
like awesome song. And these songs are just like they're so different, you know.
Yeah.
There's every
Mhm.
song is like there's a lot of hard driving songs like the Wanton song and um you
And then
know
you have In My Time of Dying,
sick
which you
sick
know,
again
yeah,
is a hard rocking song, but then yeah, like in my time was more of like a bluesy.
yeah,
Then you got everything from Kashmir, which has you know the
yeah.
orchestration in the light with that heavy
Right.
uh organ. I don't even know what you know, like a church, like one of those ones where you see like 4 or 5 levels of keyboards
Oh,
and just that heavy organ sound. And it's just like it's kind of like a
Hammond, a Hammond
progressive
organ,
rock kind of song, but it just
possibly, yeah.
it grabs you in from that opening, you know. And then that's one of those songs where you just want to blast it, like turn the volume as high as your ears can stand it, because it's
Right.
like that organ is just amazing, by John Paul Jones. And then you know, the Brown Wire you were just talking about, or no, you were talking about Brown Wire Stomp.
Right.
My
But I
bad.
was also talking about that. My one of my college roommates would sit there and play Bron Moyar.
Yeah, great acoustic song. Down by the Seaside, you know, kind of like a soft ballady kind of song. Starts off soft, gets, you know, rocking in the middle and ends soft again. Great song.
Uh-huh.
10 Years Gone, Night Flight, kind of like a country kind of like rock kind of influence kind of song. And um every song there's no bad songs on this album.
Yeah.
Um
Oh,
Night
great.
Flight, Boogie with Stu, Black Country Woman is a great song.
Right.
So
Sick
just being
again.
the depth, the being that it's a double album, and the depth and the, you know, the wealth of material in this album just puts it over the top for me.
All right. Very cool. Now, Sick Again being tucked all the way at the bottom, you wouldn't think it, but I went back and I looked up some of their old set lists. That was a regular on their set list back then, back in
Hmm.
the day. I wouldn't have expected that, but
And again, like you said, you know, some of these songs, from what I read, they had enough to do 3 sides, and so they just decided, um, let's pull some of the song, you know,
mm,
uh, the ones we left on the cutting room floor,
right. Yeah.
to finish a 4th side. So
Right.
just make it a double album. But yep, my favorite one.
Very cool. All right. So right before we go into mine, I'm just here's another book that I was at a store that I bought, and this is one of those. So I happen to know this author uh, through Sea of Tranquility and my channel. His name is Martin Popoff. He is a Canadian um, rock journalist, and he's on with my good friend Pete Pardo every Friday, and he's written so many books, and I mean, really beautiful books that uh, when we hang out in a few weeks, I'm going to bring this down to show it to you. Yeah, it's really nice, and
Oh, by the way, since you brought up Pink Floyd, I want to bring up something that I learned this week.
uh-huh,
That hats off to Roy Harper.
yeah.
Roy Harper is the vocalist on Have a
Have a
Cigar.
cigar. Yep,
Oh, you knew
knew
that?
that. Yep, I knew that.
Okay.
But here's another book that I bought from uh, Martin Popoff, which I absolutely love. This is going to adorn my coffee tables for years to come.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so now that I've bored everybody to death, let's get to my final three. All right. Okay, so We left off at Physical Graffiti at number 4. Number 3, come on, damn it. There you go. Self-titled first album. Uh, I absolutely love this album, and this was originally my number 1, but in using this formula that I had to be fair to the other albums. So, uh, but basically, the first 3 songs I absolutely love. Good Times, Bad Times, uh, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. Uh, it's funny, not a lot of people talk about You Shook Me, but that's actually one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs.
Hmm.
I just, I love that I love the harmonica. I love the what sounds like he's playing slide guitar on that. It's just wonderful. Uh, Communication Breakdown. Even How Many More Times. I love those songs. Oh, I Can't Quit You, Babe. Another one.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome album. Great, great. Start of things to come for Led Zeppelin. So that's number 3. Uh, so the only question is, what's my 2 and what's my 1? So my number 2 is Led Zeppelin 4.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, again, kind of like you, I wanted to be fair to all the other albums. This album probably gets the most airplay, but you know what? Part of it is they get airplay because they're great songs.
Yeah,
Led Zeppelin
absolutely.
could have released Stairway to Heaven as a single, and it would have made them millions upon millions. But they didn't want to do that. They only wanted that song to be heard in the context of that album.
Hmm.
So other songs, some. So Martin, by the way, has a show called The Contrarians, and I'll bet it's been discussed there. If rock and roll is a good song or not. I think it is, but some of my friends in that group hate rock and roll as a
Hmm.
song. Whereas it took me a long time to warm up to Black Dog, but I do now.
Yeah, I could kind of see their point on rock and roll, but I love it's a driving song,
Uh-huh.
and there's some really good guitar on there. So at the
Right,
end of the day, to me, it's a great song.
right. So now Going to California, another song which I really love. Sue and I went and saw Journey, Hart, and Cheap Trick at Jones Beach one time, and Hart played Going to California, and fantastic job, excellent.
Don't
But
they play some kind of small, special little like Middle Eastern guitar for that or something, or a mandolin maybe? Or
well, it is a mandolin, yes, yeah, yep. I think Nancy Wilson played the mandolin on that, yeah, but great. Um, what else is there to say? Battle of Evermore, which you mentioned. You know, years ago when I first bought this album, I would only listen to side 1 because it took me a long time to start flipping it over and listening to side 2. But once I did, I loved it, particularly Misty Mountain Hop and Four Sticks. As for Battle of Evermore, probably the only song where they have like an outside musician or vocalist. Uh,
hmm.
her name is Sandy Denny. She is a folk singer. She's left us
Uh, you
unfortunately.
know, while we're on the subject of that song, when I saw "Get the Lead Out,"
Uh,
they had a female singer with them,
oh,
and
interesting.
they only brought her on stage just for that one song,
I believe it. Yeah,
and then other than that, you didn't see her anymore. But
yeah,
they did an amazing rendition.
yeah. You know what? It wouldn't do it justice if you had a man try to sing those parts. Yeah. All right. So I think everybody knows what my number 1 is. Led Zeppelin 2. So I don't know if you know this or not, but years ago when we lived in the split level home, uh, I wanted a what the hell was it? When Dad and I were going out to look for a ping pong table, we were driving around on the South Shore looking for tag sales, and we found this house that they were selling the house, and they wanted to get rid of a ton of shit. So We bought the ping pong table, but as we're looking around the rest of the house, I had the stereo system that it was a turntable, not a cassette player, but it had an 8-track player. Now I
Mm.
had no 8 tracks because even at that time they were already antiquated. But I'm looking through this house and what do I see? Led Zeppelin 2. So I bought it for $1. It was, what the hell? Try out the 8 track, and you know what? I never looked back. I love
Mm.
this album. And I particularly love the deep tracks. I was never a big fan of Whole Lotta Love, but I love What Is and What Should Never Be. The Lemon Song. I love the Lemon Song. Very sexual in nature, but whatever. Thank You. Heartbreaker, which was actually 2 songs that were kind of joined together with that um, awesome lead that Jimmy plays. And another favorite of mine, Bring It On Home. Probably one of the best riffs. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I even love John Paul Jones's bass leading into that. It's the greatest thing. And Robert's harmonica. So great, great.
I got to tell you, when you first talked about this idea of ranking Led Zeppelin albums,
Right.
I would have thought that Led Zeppelin 2 would have been number 2 for me.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Right.
because it also, there's no bad song on the album.
I mean, that's the idea of taking a real deep dive and really, you know,
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said with some of these, I really had to score the songs and really evaluate the songs because
right,
I had 4 and 2 flip flopped. But then when
right.
I did the rankings, I was like, well, some of these songs on 4 are really great songs.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question. There's not a bad song on 4. Yeah. And there's not really a bad song on 2, although I think Ramble On is a little played out for me. But other than that, the rest of the album I think is gold. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I would just say, in closing for me, the first 6 albums, you can flip any one of those around. And the last 3 are great albums, don't get me wrong, but they're nowhere near the echelon of the first 6.
right. All
That's
right.
probably the last thing I would say.
Very cool. Okay, so any upcoming shows for you?
We're gonna start playing at the Sycamore Brewery again in Charlotte. It closed down to they opened a new tap room, so
Uh-huh.
they closed the old tap room and now they're moved into a brand new building. They're going to be on 2 floors, state of the art brewery.
Nice.
So that's one of the reason we hadn't played there in so long. But we're starting May 6th,
Oh, very
12
cool.
p.m.
Well, I'd like to get down there to see you at some point, but
Thanks for letting me plug that.
yo, you're quite welcome. Uh, and I don't really have anything to plug right now other than my top 3 metal by year series is ongoing, and I will be bringing some guests, onto that show with me. And uh, I don't know if you heard that, but I have a ring camera, and now Miley's barking. I'm just gonna shut my
Your other ring camera.
yeah. But all right, I'm back. So I'm gonna wrap up. I'm gonna say bid everybody a fond adieu for now. Thank you for joining me, Andrew. This was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
thanks for having me.
Okay.
It was I know all these albums back and front, forwards and backwards, but it really made me kind of do a deep dive
Right.
into into the albums again. So that was cool.
Okay. Very cool. We'll have to talk offline about some other ideas in the future, but when I see you in a few weeks. So,
10-4.
all right. Have a good one, everybody. This is Jack Toledano speaking for All or Nada, speaking for my brother Andrew. Have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah.